We're getting some clearing here in Texas. The atmosphere is stable. So what we're ending up with is bands of stratocumulus. And we switch over to the satellite, and this is the mess that we get when you combine the remnants of a tropical cyclone with the remnants of a cold Canadian outbreak. And that stagnation point has been in Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, and we just end up with a huge pile of moisture. And as most of the cold air has flowed south and then stalled, that gives us a pretty big area of stagnation. So it's been very cloudy down in the south and drizzly and some patches of rain and fog. But temperatures very mild, lots of 70s, which is a welcome relief now that summer is drawing to a close. There's a quick check on Europe where they're getting an outbreak of cold air, 40s up in Scotland, up in the north part of UK, and 50s throughout Germany and France. Down to the south, a very vigorous low-pressure system and thunderstorms out ahead of this cold front in southern Italy down towards Sicily. Here's a look at the jet stream patterns in North America. We have a very strong zonal flow set up across the Pacific, and there's a 140 knot jet out there south of Alaska, and the band is running roughly like that. So with this kind of pattern, all we need is a wave developing, and we can set up some very strong warm air advection and cold air advection patterns very efficiently. So for example, you can see this wave south of the Aleutians. Well, that wave bends down south into warm air, and that's going to get displaced northward as warm air advection. That whole zone right there is a warm air advection area. And with this very strong flow, it's going to kick it up there very rapidly. So you're going to very quickly build this ridge. And you can see how that gets established there, and that means that that's going to dislodge cold air and send it south. So that's one way these very strong zonal patterns end up sort of buckling and switching into these very amplified patterns that we see right here. So we can see by the middle of next week we're going to have a ridge along the west coast and a trough in the eastern U.S. So this means it's going to be cold east of the Rockies, especially east of the Mississippi. And we see things moderating a little bit as the trough exits the east coast there, and then another zonal flow pattern sets up, but this one is weaker. So what we see here, looking at the 850 millibar temperatures, what you'll want to watch up here is in northern Canada. Keep an eye on these cold air outbreaks that get sent northward. There's one decent one there around the 28th. And then we see another one coming together around the 30th. That's coming through Manitoba into the Great Lakes and the Midwest, and that looks pretty strong there. All of the blue colors are temperatures of 0 Celsius and below at 850, which is about 5,000 feet. And then we have another outbreak coming south around the 4th into the 5th. That one likewise moves into the Midwest. So if you're heading to Chicago or Des Moines, Indianapolis, you could probably expect some cold weather in the next week or two. And then after that, I think things will likely moderate a little bit. Well, one more for the Great Lakes around the 10th, and then I think things will settle down for a little bit. But some evidence of action out there in the Gulf. Let's see where that came from. That looks to be an easterly wave that came together, moved out towards the Yucatan, and developed into a tropical cyclone. Let's check that out. We'll just take this surface chart. Oh, that one goes very far south. That's one of the first outbreaks around the 28th. You can see that goes all the way down into Mexico. There comes another reinforcing shot. And then, let's see, I'm looking down around the Yucatan around the 3rd and 4th. This is very, very far out, but this gives us an idea what might be happening there. There's that easterly wave, and we see a little low come together right there. Yeah, that could be a weak tropical storm coming together. That's going to be the 2nd or 3rd week of October. That's 2nd week. Yeah, that's a long ways out. And the European model is not even going to pick that up because it's beyond 240 hours. But it looks like we're not going to have any tropical cyclones to contend with for at least 15, maybe 20 days. In the southeastern U.S., there's that mass of cloud we were talking about. The front looks like it's running something like that right there. You can see a division between the cloud types. They're in southern Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. Those look kind of different. So the front, yeah, it's going to go down something like that, possibly into the Gulf like that, and I don't know what this is. That could be a wave. Not really sure. But we will check that out, and it looks like one little instability band or boundary from Apalachicola up to, I guess, around Augusta, whatever towns are in this area here. Let's check out the surface chart. There's the weak frontal boundary in the southeast. The remains of Tropical Depression Beta. Looks like that's right there in eastern Georgia, forming a wave. And then, let's see, out in the western Gulf, I kind of brought that front back into the Waco and Fort Worth, Wichita Falls area. I've kind of brought that in with, this whole area is rain-cooled, cloudy, and forming kind of a weak high-pressure area that you see right there. And so I've kind of wrapped the front a little bit around that. I think there, certainly is a difference, modest difference in the air mass between there and there. Now, you could make a case for a frontal boundary being further south, maybe down there, and certainly that could be the case. You can see Monterey. You've got that weak north wind. But I think that boundary is just about washed out. The heat returning to southwest Kansas, 101 there at Dodge City. Upper 90s in southeastern Colorado. And that right there is going to be a heat low. And I'd say there's probably a bit of a heat trough, maybe extending south into the Panhandle. In the northeast, not a whole lot to talk about. The remnants of Beta passing just to the south, affecting mainly Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. The air mass does look dry up there in the Great Lakes and picking up a little bit of moisture in upstate New York and Ontario. And further out to the west, we can see the next system. There's that classic S shape. So I would be thinking of maybe the front's looking at somewhat like that there. So Minnesota, just west of Duluth into Lake Superior. There's the map for the Northeast, a vast high-pressure area covering much of New England. And we got mild temperatures there, 60s and 70s. And as you go west, you get into the warmer, moister air. Chicago, 80 over 55, and Des Moines, 86 over 64. But lurking off to the west, there's our next system, pretty much right where we figured it would be, looking at the satellite. Cold air coming into Nebraska, South Dakota. That's warmed a little bit due to downslope. I'm not so sure I would call that Canadian Pacific, but it is of some sort of polar origin. It's just strongly heated, and the downslope is kind of taking the temperatures up. And you can see that even though conditions are mild in the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, I think that's 74 over 61. I think that's due to the cloud cover. That's still, I think, part of this air mass to the south. And only when you get up into this area, yeah, that's much cooler. So that's going to represent an air mass change in southern Lake Superior. In the northwestern U.S., the past 18 hours of water vapor imagery looks like that. Looks like a pretty potent system moving inland. The main upper level features way up there in Montana, and it still looks like we've got a jet stream running right across Oregon and Idaho. Yep, there it is right there. Passing just north of Portland, going through Montana. So based on this, let's see, trough in the Dakotas, ridge out to the west, trough like that. I would be thinking of the fronts maybe running somewhat like that, and then another, due to this wave right here, I'd be thinking of another front. In fact, we analyzed that already, and it's pretty close to that position. So I'm thinking that's going to link back kind of like that. Maybe some sort of wave in western Montana. We certainly can't put the baroclinic systems north of this jet because that gets it away from the temperature contrasts that are supporting the jet. Okay, so let's look at the lower level charts. There's the 700 millibar temperature. Bring that up to 18Z. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, 700 millibar front right through there. What about 850? Looks like it's in a very similar location. And yeah, that does indeed link back up into Minnesota. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look at the structure of this front three-dimensionally to bring it down to the surface. Now another clue that we can look at is the temperature anomaly. And I'm going to start with 850 temperature anomaly. The air mass tends to stand out there at 850. So yeah, that's going to be the leading edge of the cold air. Whoop, a little too far south there. And let's check out the surface. Now here it's a little less evident because of noise in the actual temperature data and the climatology numbers. I think there might be something in here. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be... So that's what I have for my surface analysis. That's about where I wanted it based on the upper level conditions. And this here, that's some sort of trough. I don't think that's a frontal feature. It certainly doesn't look like a difference in air mass on either side. It looks homogeneous. That sure differs from WPC's analysis. And that does happen a lot, and I don't know why. But I think it's important to keep everything consistent meteorological-wise and in terms of the air masses. I know for sure that this air mass here is different from the air mass up to the north, or even to the northeast. Put a little lee side trough right there. Okay, so yeah, that's my analysis, and I'm sticking to it. There's the visible satellite imagery showing extensive mountain wave activity due to the humid air mass and the very fast-moving jet conditions. And as you go a little further north, you get into some of the cold air advection showers. That's north of Seattle. And just kind of superimposing the front so you can kind of see what's going on. That's probably too far north. Yeah, the front's running about like that. And then it links back up into that other system in the Minnesota region. Down to the south, not much to see. Got the usual fires going on there in California. Another little fire in Wyoming. We're getting to that time of year where the monsoon is shutting down. The vast pressure falls that we typically see in the summer in this area here and down in the southwest, those get replaced by these plateau highs. Cold air kind of gets in a place there. Also, you get very strong radiational cooling at night in this higher terrain. And so we get this high pressure area, and that gives us kind of a gradient flowing north to south, which kind of opposes the monsoon flow. So yeah, all we've got is this little pocket of 40s dew points, a little bit of moisture, and I think we're going to see the monsoon starting to back off as we go into October and enter the fall patterns. Still hanging on to 100-degree temperatures there in Phoenix all the way back towards Palm Springs. But other than that, not a whole lot to see. Troughing in the Texas Panhandle and the dry line not yet established, but I can see a little evidence of it right there from Sanderson to Big Spring. So we may see that as an actual feature on tomorrow's map, with a southerly flow starting to set up on the plains. Okay, and that'll do it for our Friday edition of Forecast Lab. Keep in mind that we do have a free instability skew-t and hodograph handbook. That's a $30 book, and that's going to go out to a lucky viewer at the end of the month. To register, all you need to do is be a new Patreon supporter. So sign up, and here's the link on how to do that. It's only $5. So once you do that, you'll be automatically entered, and we'll draw the winner October 1st, and hope you all have a great weekend. Y'all take care, and we will see you on Monday for the supporters and Tuesday for the rest of you. Bye-bye.